restore the Master Sword for you. Everything I've done up until now, it was all for nothing. All to die.
We'll get back to that pretty soon. It's difficult to even know what to say about Ocarina of Time that hasn't already been said. It is the highest rated game of all time, and it is still remembered 28 years later after its original release in 1998 for how revolutionary it was for the gaming industry. Like many games of the late 90s, Ocarina of Time transitioned from the 2D perspective seen in the first three Zelda games to 3D. Ocarina of Time had a particularly high expectations because by 1998, Star Fox 64 and Mario 64 had already set a new standard for what audiences could expect in a 3D gaming environment. So compared to other studios at the time that had a pretty small development team, usually under 50 people at best, Ocarina of Time had 120 people alone working on the seed targeting system. So the stage was set for Nintendo to deliver a game that pushed the N64 to its limits, from a technological, gameplay, and storytelling perspective. So, you're probably asking yourself, well, if this revolutionary switch to 3D wasn't the most revolutionary aspect of Ocarina of Time, then what was? Maybe the clear structure of the game that has zero fat and excellent connective tissue with visually diverse areas and dungeons? Kind of? Maybe the music that is impressively entwined with the rest of the game's design and can be used to manipulate the game's systems? Yeah, kind of. And what about the simple but incredibly effective story of Link's transition into adulthood, where he takes responsibility and becomes a leader? Yeah, that's excellent, but again, kind of. I think the actual answer is something that sits above the switch to 3D and the incredible structure, the memorable music, and the effective story, which is the game explores the concept of time. Because at its core, Ocarina of Time is an exploration about our relationship with time, how humans try to transcend it, how it affects us, and how, for better or worse, it will keep moving forward no matter how hard we try. So, to explore this clearly, we're going to look at this in three ways the game uses time: gameplay, systems, and story. Firstly, let's look at the gameplay. Ocarina of Time uses space in an incredibly effective manner. Let's take Kakarino Village for example. You might think, oh, it's one village, but this village actually has 4 states: child in the day, child at nighttime, adult in the day, and adult at nighttime. In each of these versions, there are different secrets you can access, different NPCs you can interact with, and different quests you can complete. It takes such a compact space and uses time to increase the diversity of the exploration and interactivity. This makes the game feel incredibly tight in its pacing because you are constantly exploring the same environment in different contexts, which deepens your connection to that environment. It also prevents it from becoming stale as you become more effective at traversing it. The game also provides opportunities for the child and adult versions of Link to interact in meaningful ways. So, for example, there are seeds you can plant as a child, and you can only receive the shortcut on rewards from planting them as an adult. And then later in the game, in the Spirit Temple, the complexity of these interactions increases when you have to switch back and forth between child and adult Link to access different areas of the temple. And Ocarina of Time, certainly from a gameplay perspective, doesn't explore time as much as Majora's Mask's time cycles, where NPC routines and world states on specific days are concretely entwined with the gameplay loop. But I think by keeping these interactions brief, they feel targeted to fulfill a purpose, which, along with the rest of the game, keeps it simple yet effective. I also loved how child and adult Link had complementary but sufficiently different equipment they can access, which makes their playstyle feel different, like the hookshot versus the boomerang. They both serve the same function of damaging enemies, long range, and retrieving items, but they feel differently, and that makes Link genuinely different to play in both forms. Moving on to the game's systems, I think it's pretty safe to say that the Ocarina is, well, a pretty important part of Ocarina of Time. The music is incredibly entwined to the game's story and gameplay, but it also lets you manipulate other aspects of its design. It can be used for convenience to quickly fast travel to another area, or to change the weather, or to call your horse, but it can also be used, importantly, to manipulate time. The Ocarina reminded me of a command block in Minecraft because you can use it to change the game to the conditions that you desire, like to change the weather or to teleport, but here in a way that makes you connect with the game in a way that is engaging rather than, typing it. So by the end of your 30 or so hour playthrough, you probably memorized the button combinations necessary to play these songs. This may appear to be basic, and you might say,
Well, of course this game lets you have simple quality of life features.
if we take another amazing game that came out 12 years later, time is an inflexible, rigid concept that becomes an annoyance that you have to work around. Whereas in Ocarina of Time, time throughout its design is treated as its own playground that, just like a sword or a joystick, can be also manipulated to your heart's content. Even time savers like fast travel would have been adequate to just have a button to teleport in the map screen and call it a day, but having to play the ocarina to the theme of the temple already preempts you for the vibe shift that's going to happen, say if you teleport from the fire to the water temple. Finally, and I would argue the most profound way that time is explored in Ocarina of Time is through its story. The story of these games begins with the Decutri summoning Navi the Fairy to find the Link so that he can begin his journey. The vibe of the opening village is of a playground. Link can try new things with no fear or consequences. He is surrounded by his friends, and there is no sense of urgency to move forward. While the stakes increase more as the child section of the game goes on, especially once you learn about Ganondorf and the Triforce, the mood is always light, playful, joyful, and the environment around you is full of life and full of color. When Zelda believes that Ganondorf is trying to steal the Triforce, Link tries to pull the Master Sword but is sealed away for 7 years and awakens as a hero of time, and he must face his destiny, except now when he leaves the Temple of Time, the world looks just a bit different. It is now darker, more hostile, and expects more of him, regardless of whether he is ready to take on the responsibility. The dungeons become larger in scale, more difficult to traverse, and feature more imposing enemies that are more difficult to defeat. While Link can in many ways transcend time by going back and forth through it, he cannot transcend the effect it will have on him. He was a child that, due to duty and destiny, was forced to grow up and live his childhood before he should have. The game essentially shows you the effect that time has on children as they grow older, because it is difficult to uphold the same perspective on the world that you once did when it expects more of you, but you also know more of it, how it functions, and how it is much more complex than you once thought.
Or if after your kids came along, your mom, she said something to me I never quite understood. She said, now, we're just here to be memories for our kids.
If Ocarina of Time explored how time affects children, then Interstellar explores how time affects parents. Cooper has to choose between the duty of caring for his family or the calling of going for a journey that may save the world but will separate him from his family potentially forever. Throughout the film, Cooper faces the ultimate cost for transcending time, losing his friends and the world as he knew, and his daughter growing up to resent him for not being able to keep his promise. There is a line when Sheik tells Link that the flow of time is always cruel, and I think both Interstellar and Ocarina of Time show this from different perspectives. For Link, time creates a disruption from the world of a child to the world of an adult, while for Cooper, it creates a disruption between the responsibility of a parent and the loneliness and the sense of the world leaving you behind after that responsibility is gone. Both Cooper and Link can momentarily bend and manipulate time, but eventually they are part of a new reality where it is up to them to take the lessons from the experiences they had even if they are not remembered for their deeds. And that is a tragedy of Ocarina of Time and its exploration of time. Ultimately, Link is sent back by Zelda to his own timeline, where he is a child, where the Navi the fairy, who he started the journey with, leaves him, and it is up to Link to start a new journey on his own and learn from his experiences. Around 10 years ago, when I was a kid, I stumbled upon a YouTube video where Neil deGrasse Tyson explains time as a fourth dimension.
We are not prisoners of our three-dimensional space. I can walk left and right, I can jump up and down, I can walk forwards and backwards, and I can repeat that. I can access all points of my three-dimensional space, yet I am a prisoner in the present, forever transitioning from the past into the future.
Since then, I have always been fascinated with time and how little we understand it despite being bound to it. And funnily enough, the memory of this video was what gave me the inspiration for the intro of this current video. What makes us want to relive the same stories over and over again? Because at the end of the day, The Legend of Zelda is a fairy tale. One that has now gone on for 40 years and has been told across different generations, consoles and genres. But what is at the core of all of these stories is a boy that has to face his destiny and overcome his fear through courage to rescue Princess Zelda and protect the kingdom of Hyrule from a great evil. While the audience and time shifts, the legend does not. We are imprisoned by time, but Zelda isn't. Thank you for watching.